Hello, welcome to the Voice of Todd. I'm Tom, and today we're going to take a look at the Indiana Jones trailer. Now, I am going to play the trailer in full first, and then I'm going to go over a few screenshots that I've taken. There's not much to go on here, really, so it's mostly speculation, but I thought it would be quite interesting. So let's take a look at the trailer, and then we'll come back to me to go over my thoughts and findings. Okay, I like the trailer. It has the indie vibe. It tells us very little, which is fine at this point. But let's go over what I've got. First, the music. It's crackly. It sounds quite broken up. Definitely playing on an old phonograph or a phonograph style music player. It works with the time setting. We'll mention that in a moment. But you get the first bar of the indie theme, which is iconic. John Williams obviously does incredible work, and this is another theme that he'll go down in history for. The camera moves right to left across the desk. There's quite a few books on the right side. A couple of authors' names I've picked out. I don't think this means anything. But in the top corner, you've got a book by R. Hagfeld, who seems to be made up, and the same with Sir Francis L. something. You can't really make out the surname, but as I say, I think that these names are totally made up. Another set of books closest to the camera as it moves. Forbidden Stones by A. It looks like Taurus. I think this is more a nod to Temple of Doom. There's also a Myth That Made Us. We can't see the author. And Ancient Circle Jubilee by Todd Howard. Yeah, we know Todd Howard's involved in this. I think that's just putting his name there. Again, there could be something in the other authors, maybe anagrams or people who work for the studio or whatever, who knows. But I don't think it's anything. We do have a Marshall College coffee mug. That's the college where Indy teaches with Marcus Brody. We get sketches of the Golden Idol from the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the opening scene, and it looks like a ziggurat, which is a type of building found in Peru and that sort of area. I believe, I might be wrong, I think it's Mayan. My history's terrible, but again, I think this is a nod to Raiders. Indy's journal. I think that could be a really interesting gameplay mechanic, actually. Something like the Uncharted notebook, or even just Arthur's journal in Red Dead 2. That could be really cool, but I don't think there's anything really to take here. You can't see much. The camera continues moving left across the desk. We see Indy's passport. There's the Bethesda stamp on there. Obviously, they're the big studio publishing this. There's no mention of Microsoft that I can see, so I think this deal was done well in advance of that acquisition. But there's a few details on the passport I thought we'd mention. It says the travel reasons are research, educational and archaeology, which all fit Indy. And then there's some signatures that look like his parents' names, and then a date of July 1899. That's the month and year that Indy was born. So that also, checks in with his parents' names. There is a plane ticket for an overnight haul to Rome, departing on October the 21st, 1937. So it looks like the game is set in 37. This is in the year between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade. Temple of Doom was a prequel. I only just learned that out today. It blew my mind a little. But it seems like it takes place at an interesting point in Indy's history. But we'll get onto that in a moment. There's also a map that we see. That the main chunk of information here is a map of the Vatican City. We can see the Sistine Chapel is mentioned, the Belvedere Courtyard, There's an X marked on there, so maybe there's something there. There's also a question mark on the Vatican Palace, maybe pointing to the Vatican Library, the Vatican Archives, something like that. We don't really know what's in the Vatican Archives, so there could be any kind of legendary item that we're hunting in this. Typewriter is branded Machinegames. They're famous for the modern Wolfenstein games. They have worked in this time period, or a little bit after this time period, quite a lot. Most of the Wolfenstein stuff has been in the Second World War. So they have an interesting take on it. I can see it working. There is a document in the typewriter. It looks like a letter that Indy's typing to reply to whoever has asked him to come to the Vatican City. It looks like it's addressed to Father, which links in with Vatican City and the Christianity angle here, obviously. As we continue to pan left, we get a few photos of the catacombs with a camera and some film. Both are marked up with the brand new Lucasfilm Games logo that was announced a few days ago. There's also a document in the top with a top secret marked under Indy's revolver. Who knows what that could be? We do know that he has contacts that can get him this information, so maybe it's important, maybe it's just a little bit of decoration for the trailer, who knows? But then we get the famous fedora, and when it's lifted up we get the whip, and there's a box of stones that shows, again, could be a reference to Temple of Doom. Who knows what we're going to be looking for? I'm not going to read much into it at the minute. But the video itself, it feels like an oldie world kind of comic, moving comic. It has an old art style to it, especially on the edges of some of the items. I don't think this is in any way any representation of what the game will look like. This is just a reveal trailer. This game is at least, it's at least 18 months away. Probably a lot more, I'm thinking quite a bit more. But yeah, we get 30 seconds of a brand new indie game. I think this is the first proper indie game for consoles in almost 20 years, which is cool. We don't know much. Obviously, this is the first we're hearing of it. It's a reveal trailer. All of what I'm going to say is speculation. We'll see how right I am nearer the time, I guess. But we'll touch on Machinegames first. They're a very competent developer, but they're primarily a first-person shooter developer. I do hope this isn't a first-person shooter, and while I'd play any indie game. I would much rather this more in the vein of Tomb Raider or Uncharted. Proper third-person action game. Obviously combat is in there, there's fighting and action scenes in the indie films, but it isn't the core part of the story or the character. I'd like to see more of a mystery, puzzle solving, that kind of thing. Maybe you can use your journal in a way that Drake does in Uncharted, and you find clues and things and you gotta look them back up for ways to get through puzzles or what have you. I think that could be really interesting and a mechanic that we don't often get in games. So that could work. I'd be interested in that. Todd Howard obviously part of this. I think he's EP on this. Maybe that's to bring in some knowledge on how to make third person work. A lot of Todd Howard's stuff has been third person after all. I would expect some kind of leveling system, maybe a weapon upgrade system, something like that. I don't think this is going to be anything like an RPG. Which is good. We don't need that. We don't need to be leveling up a character in a game like this. This should be a purely narrative driven story, which is good. My concern initially, and we haven't seen anything of the game, so I'm just basing this on my past experience with Machinegames and Bethesda on the whole. They've never really nailed combat. The shooting mechanics have been okay to bland with the Fallout series. Melee system has been non-existent, really, and Indy's more of a brawler, so I'd like to see something like that implemented. It would feel true to the character. But my only concern at this point is that side of it, the gameplay side. I think the narrative stuff and the story will be fantastic because they have the track record for it. I don't think this will be a big open world game. There will be large areas to explore. It's an indie story. Hopefully it's an indie story. There's going to be a lot of travelling, some globe hopping. We'll see. I'd like to think that we'll start off in the college in America. You get your assignment to go to Vatican City, and that takes you to another country or a couple of other areas. So there's quite a diverse setup, quite diverse environments. I think that'd be quite cool. I'm really thinking here of the Uncharted model. Uncharted 2, I've mentioned it before, is one of the best games I've ever played. I think you could easily do an indie game in that style that a lot of people would be desperate to play. But I don't think this is going to be an exclusive. I said in my last video with the overall news video of the Lucasfilm name change, I don't see any world in which this isn't on PS5 and the Xbox Series consoles, and PC probably. I don't think it's possible, not with somebody like Lucasfilm attached to it. Lucasfilm Games are going to want to make as much money out of this. We will see. But I went down a bit of an Indiana Jones rabbit hole this morning. I thought we'd take a look at who we might see character-wise from Indy's allies that we know from the films. I'm only touching on the films. That's really all I know. I know that there was the TV show, there's been comics, books, everything probably. There have been other games, I don't remember playing them. But I think this is going to be very much in the cinematic universe and not much else. So, who might we see? I definitely think that Marcus Brody will appear. I get the feeling that this desk is in Indy's office with the coffee mug. I don't think we will get a lot from Marcus, but I think he will be there. It would be nice to see him back. I don't think we'll get anything from Henry Sr., Indy's dad. Last Crusade is set a year after this time period. I'd like to see Salah. Salah was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. You never know, it would be quite nice. But who knows? Like I said, this is just speculation. There is something that I do think we might get from this, and that's to do with Marion Ravenwood, who is the romance in Raiders, and she does show up in Crystal Skull, which is set 20 years on from this point. Being the on-again, off-again romance from Indy's past and Raiders, the timeline lines up. I think the story is that Indy and Marion were together, then Indy went off on a quest, and then 6 months later, whatever, Mutt was born, and I don't really know, but it feels like, is this going to be the quest that pulls him away from Marion and sets up that next part with the Crystal Skull and whatever the 2022 indie film is going to be that Spielberg is currently planning? I'm clutching at straws. I know, we've got nothing to go on. I'm just trying to make this interesting. But that's really it. There's not a huge amount here. There's probably things that we've missed. There usually is in trailers like this. Bethesda have said that there isn't going to be much about this game for a while. I would expect release to be 2023. It may tie in with when the EA Star Wars exclusivity license ends, just so nothing is disturbed by that. I don't think Indy is part of that deal, but we don't really know the specifics. I think we'll see this release probably fall 2023. Yeah, I think 2023. I think we're a few years away from this at the very earliest, maybe even 2024. And I would put money on it being on all platforms. But that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.